Hello, I'm Sam from Cultaholic.com, and this is Graded for NXT and 205 Live, where I take a look at each show, segment by segment, and award each little bit a grade from A+ to F. So, without any further ado, hit the intro. So we start things off as we always do with 205 Live, and 205 Live this week starts with Lucha House Party coming to the ring with Penelope. They get on the mic and they welcome us and they tell us to prepare for a fiesta. But just as we're about to prepare our bodies, they get cut off by 205 Live's resident fun police, Drew Gulak, Jack Gallagher, and they've brought out poor Humberto Carrillo. So the opening match of tonight is the Lucha House Party versus Drew Gulak, Jack Gallagher, and Humberto Carrillo. Carrillo and Metalik start off strong as commentary are really putting over Carrillo as both a very gifted wrestler and a lovely, handsome, dimply man. He keeps Metalik at bay, they're doing a lot of flippy stuff, they sort of steal the Ospreay Ricochet dual handspring landing staring at each other spot, and then Drew Gulak tags himself in because Carrillo's having too much fun. Lucha House Party then make very quick work of both Gulak and Gallagher. They dump them to the outside, and once back in the ring, Gulak is kept pinned to the mat. The story here in this one that we're going to keep coming back to throughout the match is that high-flying wrestling is actually capable of taking opponents out and winning matches, and that Humberto shouldn't allow himself to be so blinkered by his managers. Lindsay is able to drive Gulak into the corner, and he steps out onto the apron as if he's going to, do a springboard or something, but he doesn't realise he's stepped onto the ring skirt, and Gallagher pulls the ring skirt, knocking him to the outside, and Gulak is able to capitalise because Lindsay goes flying face first into the announce table, and then they just beat him down on the outside. Humberto, though, doesn't get involved. Once Gallagher's in, he starts taking control, little bit of a ring general, pinning everybody down. He manages to take care of Lindsay, he almost removes Metalik's mask, and then he tags Humberto back in. Humberto gets a little bit of offense in, and then he hits a springboard kick, and Drew Gulak goes mental. He's essentially shouting at him for taking such a risk. I think he actually says something along the lines of, why would you do that when you could kick him from the mat? But either way, he's sort of annoyed at Carrillo and he tags himself back in. Gulak and Gallagher are then able to keep everything at bay. It seems to be working for them and everything's alright, and then when Humberto gets back in, he just gets abused by Kalisto. Kalisto just destroys him. There's then a really cool triple dive spot, and then we get a really cool Tower of Doom with Grand Metalik sort of power bombing everybody. But eventually, all it boils down to is Humberto and Kalisto, and he's got Kalisto on his back, he's near a corner, and he knows the only way to put him away is to fly. Carrillo starts to climb the turnbuckle, but Gulak grabs his leg. He's shouting at him, he wants to know what the hell he's thinking, and he's distracting him. He just keeps saying, you need to listen, this isn't part of the plan, you need to follow what we're telling you. And in the ensuing confusion, Kalisto rolls up Humberto and picks up the 3. I'm going to give this one a C+. It was a pretty straightforward match, and it would have been nice to see it go a little bit longer, but I think the storytelling worked really well, especially Gulak trying to clip Carrillo's wings. It's sort of becoming clear that the only interest that Gulak and Gallagher actually have in Humberto is keeping him away from high flying and taking away another wrestler that could use that sort of offense to take them out. But I love where the story's heading, and I can't wait for Carrillo and Gulak to eventually butt heads. We then go backstage and it's Maria and Mike Kanellis, and Maria and Mike are both denying the fact that Maria really won the match for Mike last week. Drake Maverick then appears and he says to Mike in quite a condescending but funny way, I respect the fact you've been wrestling for 16 years, and if after 16 years you think you need your wife to distract your opponent so you can pick up a win, then fair play, but Tozawa is not happy. He says to even the score, they're going to have to go one-on-one again, and if Mike insists on bringing Maria to the ring, then Tozawa's going to bring Brian Kendrick. We then keep it backstage, and Buddy Murphy is at the Performance Center, and he says, you're wondering why I'm at the Performance Center, and it's because I don't want Tony Nese coming to find revenge on me if I'm at the arena, because if he does that, I'm just going to attack him and I'm going to beat him up, and it's going to ruin the match that we're going to have at Mania. He keeps yammering on about how he's the greatest, and then all of a sudden, Tony Nese appears, swinging wildly and just taking it straight to Murphy. They're getting pulled apart, and Nese just keeps screaming at Murphy, you were nothing until I brought you to 205 Live. And then we go to the ring for tonight's main event, which is Cedric Alexander versus Ariya Daivari. Both men get down and into the ring, they're about to square up, and then Oney Lorcan's music hits. Nobody knows why he's there. He comes down to ringside, commentary are like, what? And then he goes and sits at commentary, but he doesn't sit at the table. They're sort of relaying information whenever he's saying stuff. He doesn't want to put on a headset. He's just there to stare at Cedric for some reason. Daivari in recent weeks has been going on in promos about how he's nobody's lapdog and he is desperate to prove himself, and he actually manages to keep the pace going with Cedric quite early in this one. They're going blow for blow, and Cedric is letting Lorcan get into his head. It's really cool because Daivari seems to be playing the role of opportunist quite well. There's a moment where Cedric jumps to the outside, Daivari sweeps his leg, and that knocks Cedric to the floor and he almost gets counted out. All the while though, Lorcan is just sat there seething. He's like shaking with anger. He's not blinking, he's just staring straight at Cedric Alexander. Cedric though is able to put it at the back of his mind. He mounts a comeback, he's going for everything. He's really taking it to Daivari. He almost gets an early lumbar check, but Daivari is eager to prove himself. You know, whenever Cedric knocks him down, he's back up. No matter how long it takes, he's back up. And then the pair go back and forth, and eventually we get to a point where it's that thing I love that keeps happening on 205 Live. Daivari just grabs Cedric's face, starts getting in it, screaming and slapping him. I think there's nothing more insulting than somebody just grabbing you by the face and shouting at you. Daivari then goes for a Persian Lion Splash, and he almost picks up the 3, and then it keeps cutting to Lorcan on the outside, who's getting more and more agitated. Cedric manages to roll through on an attempt of a hammerlock lariat into a pin, and then eventually he ends up hitting a dive to the outside where Daivari has peeled out. And this is where things get really weird. Cedric accidentally steps on Lorcan's jacket. He took it off when he sat down and he put it on the floor, like folded it up and just put it at his feet. Cedric accidentally steps on it and Lorcan just jumps up like he can't control this rage anymore, and he just starts screaming, "My jacket! My jacket!" and getting in his face. And it's just, what? So Cedric's rolled Daivari back into the ring, and Lorcan is now just getting in his face. Cedric is distracted, tries to climb back into the ring. Daivari rolls him into a 3 and picks up the win. Daivari's halfway up the ramp. Cedric doesn't know what the hell's going on, and then Lorcan jumps him in the ring. The pair then just start going at it. They're getting pulled apart, and it's not quite easy enough to make it out, but it sounds like Lorcan's screaming, "You stole my dream," over and over again. He eventually gets dragged up the ramp, and he's sort of smirking as we go off the air. I'm going to give this one an A- because it was just mental. The match itself I thought was really solid for starters, and I think the storyline connotations, like, what the hell's only Lorcan's problem? I don't get it. But I'm really excited that Lorcan is now a fully fledged member of the 205 Live brand. They wouldn't let him have this sort of weird interaction with Cedric if they didn't have something big planned though. Cedric's one of the bigger stars, so I'm hoping that Lorcan is going to be pushed into this major storyline. Overall, I'm going to give this week's episode of 205 Live a B. Nothing majorly exciting happened, but there's some nice storyline progression with Humberto, Gulak and Gallagher. I'm very excited for Nice versus Murphy, and, you know, this whole only Lorcan thing. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, on to NXT. So NXT this week opens with an in-ring segment, and Adam Cole is in the ring with the NXT title on a podium, and he reminds everybody that he's going to the main event of TakeOver. He demands that Johnny come to the ring to understand the gravity of having to face Cole as an opponent, and the crowd, once Johnny's out there, are firmly divided between the two. Cole tells the crowd to shut up, that he doesn't need their help to win the belts, whereas Johnny says that he actually quite likes the chance. Gargano then states that his entire mission has always been to win the gold, and he's going to show everybody why they call him Johnny Takeover Bay. Cole then cuts him off and calls his takeover record into question. He says, "You couldn't beat me in a 1-4 match, never mind 2 out of 3. He calls him Johnny Participation, and he says he didn't do anything to deserve the title shot. Gargano then takes a moment and it gets quite emotional. He says, "The red carpet wasn't rolled out for me like it was for you. In my first tryout, I was told no." He was then paired with another nobody indie wrestler called Tommaso Ciampa, and they impressed the brass so much that they were invited back again and again. He says he fights for every single person that was told their dreams would never come true. He has earned every single thing that he's got because NXT is his life. Gargano then swears that he's going to become the champion at TakeOver. His music hits, Cole starts walking up the ramp, and then he just sort of goes, "One more thing." He says it's an inspirational story, but at the end of the day, he's going to be leaving TakeOver with the belt because of one thing, and he sort of points or gestures up the ramp, and the Undisputed Era are all stood there. He says Triple H wanted the match to be definitive. It's not going to be definitive, it's going to be undisputed. I'm going to give this one an A. A horrible situation that couldn't be helped, just really sad, has been turned into a must-see matchup between two of WWE's hottest rising stars. Johnny's firmly face again, Cole's firmly heel. Johnny fights for the people, Cole fights for himself. It's going to be a hell of a match. We then go to the second match of the night, which is Vanessa, Borne and Aliyah versus Lacey Lane and Kacy Catanzaro. Lane is making her NXT TV debut dressed as Scorpion, and they also run down that she's a very athletic individual. She was also an NCAA Division II basketball champion. Everybody knows Kacy Catanzaro, and both of these competitors were in the Mae Young Classic. Aliyah and Borne managed to keep Lane quite isolated throughout the match. Lane is able to show off some fancy footwork like springboard stuff on the ropes, but she's just taken straight back to the mat. Borne and Aliyah, as we know, work very well as a heel team, just frequently tagging and keeping her isolated. But before the match can go any further, who comes out but Shayna Baszler and her horsewomen? Borne and Aliyah, having already seen what happens when they come out, just vacate the ring. They start walking to the back. They want nothing to do with it. And then Duke wipes out Kacy, and Shayna just throws Lane to the outside. It's really interesting because Shayna goes for the Kirifuda clutch, but Catanzaro is able to run up the ropes and get out of it. She manages to take the horsewomen out, and she seems to be getting a little bit of offense in, but she runs firmly back into Shayna's arms, back into the Kirifuda clutch, and she gets knocked out. And then on their way out of the arena, Shayna goes up to commentary and she says that this is gonna keep happening so long as she, the champion, keeps being disrespected. I'm gonna give this one a C. It was a no contest squash, but you know, it carries on the scared Shayna storyline. You know, she's just a schoolyard bully keeping everybody at arm's length, and Kacy got a really good showing, so yeah. Next match of the night is Matt Riddle versus Kona Reeves, and this is Kona Reeves' return match, and he's got such a punchable face. I absolutely love it. Riddle's very quick to anger here because Reeves slaps him, and Reeves is able to take advantage of that a little bit. They go back and forward, and Riddle is then able to get on the front foot, but they're interrupted by the Velveteen Dreams music, and he's not coming walking down to the ring, he's not coming to commentary. No, he's being pushed out onto the stage on a big purple couch, drinking from a goblet. Like, what? So Riddle is obviously distracted, just staring at him like, what the hell's going on? And Reeves almost picks up a 3. He goes for a cheeky roll-up, almost gets the 3. Riddle's been knocked back a bit, but he fights to his feet, gets back in control, and then he stares at Dream, who's sat up on his couch, lays in the elbows, locks in the Bromission, and wins. Before the ring announcer can even get Matt Riddle's name out, Dream cuts her off, and he announces Riddle as the winner of the match. Riddle then goes all the way up the ramp to Dream, who's lying there on his couch. He takes his goblet, drinks from it, throws it away, and just says, "I'll see you in New York." I'm going to give this one a B+. Reeves got a bit more of a showing than I thought he was going to. I thought it was going to be a very, very quick squash match, and of course, the Dream on a big purple couch. Like, the couch was a perfect touch. And now we go back to the ring for tonight's main event, which is the Dusty Rhodes Classic final, the Forgotten Sons versus Ricochet and Aleister Black. Both teams start off really hot, but the Sons are almost immediately driven to the outside of the ring. Once back in the ring, Black and Ricochet just seem to have every little thing scouted. The action then once again spills to the floor, and Ricochet hits a huge dive that takes out both of the Sons. But once back in the ring, while the ref's not looking, he goes for a handspring, and Riker strikes him in the back, taking him down. The Sons now have the edge, and they put Ricochet through a lot of abuse in their corner. There's a really great moment where he's going for the hot tag. He wants to get to Black. He's so desperate, and he's getting closer and closer and closer, and he eventually gets there, and then Black is pulled off the apron, and his hand just goes down through thin air. Black eventually gets in and cleans up, and then there's this great moment where he's got Cutler locked up, and he's got his forearm, and he hurls it into Blake's face, so Cutler has just struck his own teammate, knocking him down. The Sons take Black to their corner to set up that weird double teamy stompy thing, but Ricochet gets in and sends Blake flying. Black gets free, and he just starts laying everybody out, and then he swings a kick and almost hits Ricochet in the face. They do that whole whoa type thing. There's then a hell of a lot of back and forth, Ricochet landing on his feet in consecutive flippy moments that could have gone horribly wrong, which is quite nice. Then Black almost picks up a 3 with a huge boot, but he can't quite do it. The Sons then pick up Black and do that powerbomb into the knees thing, but Black manages to get out of it or recuperate himself and hits the Black Mass. So Cutler goes down like a sack of crap, but before Black can turn to get Blake, Blake plants him. There's then a pin attempt, and Black goes to put his foot on the rope, but Riker pushes it away, and the referee sees it. He expels Riker. He just sends him to the back, like, get the hell out. Stop interfering with the match. And then in the ensuing confusion, Blake eats a Black Mass. Black then goes and does his springboard moonsault to the outside, taking out Cutler. Ricochet hits the 630 and picks up the 3. Aleister Black and Ricochet are your Dusty Rhodes Classic winners. They stand tall, confetti, all the adoration from the fans. They're celebrating the trophies in the ring, and then out come War Raiders, and both teams stare down as we go off the air. I'm going to give this one an A. It had everything. Great pacing, great great storytelling, excitement. It gave the Suns a really good outing. It's nice to see Riker getting involved a bit more, because at the minute he's just this brooding like psychopath that stands on the outside. I want to know more of his motivations. I want to know what they're all about, and I'm just hoping that this big push through Dusty Rhodes Classic is going to mean more screen time for the Suns. And in terms of an overall grade for NXT this week, I'm going to give it an A-. The hype for TakeOver is very, very real, and I think it could possibly pip the spot as the greatest NXT TakeOver of all time. The tag division hasn't looked this strong in years. We have an amazing main event despite the awful, horrible real-life situation with Tommaso Ciampa, and the women's division are continuing to be pushed around by Shayna. It's all bubbling up, and it's getting ready to blow. What were your thoughts on NXT and 205? Let me know below. This has been Graded. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments below. You can follow Cultaholic on Twitter at Cultaholic. You can check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you like what we do here at Cultaholic, you can check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/Cultaholic. And no matter what you do, don't ever forget to hit subscribe and join us.